Star Wars Starfield? With the release of Starfield just around the corner and early access already here, it's leaving many fans wondering what something like this would look like in the Star Wars universe. And what does this Skeleton Crew news mean for the future of Star Wars? Welcome to Star Wars Uplink, your place for everything Star Wars gaming, TV shows, and the movies. Let's jump in.
Just you reconsider playing that message for him.
Starfield is here. At least I've been playing it. I got it through Game Pass and I got the premium upgrade for like $30, which I'm very much enjoying it.
Well worth it.
Well worth it in my opinion to be able to play it a little bit earlier and to get some extra content, obviously. I'm really enjoying it. The level of world building and adventure and exploration, I'm there for it. I think it's really, really exciting. But it does make me wonder, what would this look like as a Star Wars thing? Before we get into the main meat of the show, I do want to shout out our live stream breakdown reactions to every single episode every Tuesday around 8 p.m. Mountain Time, which is around 7 p.m. Pacific Time if you're on the West Coast. Now let's dive deep into Star Wars Starfield.
There are so many moving parts in Starfield.
Yeah.
Like,
we had some family over, and one of them was like, so, tell me about Starfield. I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited. I think I'm going to get it, but now that you have it, let me see. I'm like, oh yeah, so this section right here, this is how you explore the universe. You see this? This is the world that we're on. This is the city and the world that we're on. Let's go outside. Oh, there's the galaxy that world is in. Oh, let's go back another one. You see all those little dots on the screen? Yeah, that is actually, those are all galaxies that you can explore with planets within those galaxies. The scale is massive. I think there's like 1,000 different planets that you can do. There's ship customization. You can buy other ships. There's multiple side missions. There's main missions. There's all kinds of stuff. I accidentally stole something and now I'm like on this completely different mission that I didn't expect or plan for. And it's just, there's so much there.
It's a wild ride. Mm-hmm. But that's not Star Wars.
That is not Star Wars.
But what if it was?
It feels very Star Wars.
Does it?
So, historically in Star Wars, the biggest, I would say, excuse, or I know I've used this to defend studios and their decisions for certain things on not doing this. But when we look at something like Star Wars Outlaws, I feel like you were watching me play Starfield, and you're like, I feel like this is a lot like what Outlaws is going to be like. There's a lot of mechanics that are there. There's the whole outlaw system, and you can get thrown into jail in Starfield, which I found out firsthand. And there's so much here that, like, so many moving parts. But you were like, yeah, this looks kind of like Star Wars.
What I had said was, I wonder how this is going to compare to when Outlaws comes out.
Yeah.
Like, how are we going to feel about Outlaws when we have this monolith of Starfield
scale
yeah
that we've never seen before in like a mainline story based game?
Outlaws is definitely going to be a lot more linear. It's going to have a much stronger storyline, I think,
but honestly very similar to how Starfield does it, because you have different planets that you have to go to. There's a little, it feels like Outlaws is a little bit more robust when it comes to the space combat, and the ability to go from ground to space. I think is better, because you can't really do that on Starfield.
So that's definitely going to be, well, let's hope it's a plus. Let's hope it's not janky. We'll see when we get there.
It looks pretty good so far.
But yeah, there's definitely a lot of those mechanics of, like, if you decide to do this, then those are going to reap these certain consequences and stuff like that. And the more open world ideas that you see in Starfield versus there will be an open concept in Outlaws, I'm sure.
Yeah, at each planet there is a bigger than Assassin's Creed map. Most planets have a larger than Assassin's Creed standard map. And there, I think, are 5 different planets that you can go to. Obviously, it's not the 1,000 that Starfield has. But I think if you look at it, the problem that they're trying to solve with their level of, you can't go from like ground to space and then go in seamlessly between the galaxies. There's a star map that you use to plot your course, and then you can basically fast travel in between these courses and that kind of stuff. So I think there's a clear level of, like, we have this problem, which is we can't physically or feasibly simulate going from ground to space all the way across the galaxies in a way that's believable or works in the technology that we have right now.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I mean, for thousands.
But that was the thing, like with Star Wars games, it's always like they could never do like a truly open world Star Wars game, right? There's too many planets. Well, now that Starfield's out, I feel like you can't use that excuse anymore. And I think that we now have an example of what a Star Wars truly open galaxy game would be.
Honestly, I'm just waiting for the mods. And once those mods come out, because they will come out.
Yeah, they've already announced that there will be mod support.
Oh, man.
People are already designing X-Wings and that kind of stuff in the game.
It's almost like, do we even need that game once those mods are there?
I think yes.
Yeah?
I think, well, you can mod any game to be Star Wars. There's a squad-based shooter that's like a very, very accurate like military sim game that might just be called Squad. I can't remember what the name of it is. You can get a skin, and modders have basically recreated Star Wars maps and Star Wars weapons and Star Wars types of things in this game, and it's awesome. It's the most robust like Star Wars mod I've seen in like a hot minute. It like completely makes it a Star Wars game. I feel like, yes, there's a mod part of that, but to have it really be true Star Wars and be a Star Wars game, you can't beat that.
Yeah, there are certain Star Wars, I wouldn't say mechanics, but like there's like little touches that mods aren't going to be able to cover.
And just to have something tell a canon story and live in that universe and allow you to make your own stories, I think is really cool. And I think that's honestly what we all want.
Yeah.
We want that Star Wars game that allows you to go from Coruscant to Jakku to Kashyyyk to however many planets and have like different types of stories in it. Well, I think I think on one hand you can have this over here, which I would love to see Star Wars Starfield. Star Warfield?
Star Warfield?
Yeah, Star Warfield. I think that would have value. But on the other hand, I think an open world Star Wars game where you're literally on just one planet would also be good. Because if you look at it, yes, the true open galaxy experience in Star Wars is going all across the galaxy and letting you live your ultimate fantasies of creating your own Star Wars universe. The kinds of experiences, kinds of stories that you can tell in that game versus one set on a single location, I think are very different.
Something I'm curious about, because I haven't seen a whole lot of, I've seen a fair amount of gameplay from you, just when you're sitting there playing. What is the alien vibe like? Or is it mostly just humans around these worlds?
I think it's mostly just humans so far. That
would be the interesting thing with the Star Wars one, because you would have to be able to like
have the variety and diversity.
And the majority of one species on a planet. You know, like how would
on Kashyyyk it would be Wookiees.
Yeah, exactly. I wonder how they would generate that. Like how would they? I don't know. I have no idea.
But there's a lot of Star Wars planets that just don't have a whole lot of population.
True.
Tatooine has a very small population and are only in specific parts of the galaxy. So while technically I think in this hypothetical Starfield Star Wars game, you could set a course for this random spot on Tatooine and there'd just be no people. Which you can do in Starfield. I was going around these different like galaxies, and there was this one galaxy that literally only had one planet in it. It was the sun and this other planet. And I chose some random spot on the planet, and no one was there. It was desolate, dead, and it was cold. So I feel like there's a lot of planets in Star Wars that are very similar, but there's also like galactic outposts. There are these hotbed of cities. Maybe it is, yes, well, technically you can go to this world, you only have access to this city because that's where we want to tell the story. But I think the level of game making could be so much bigger now that we've seen Starfield. What does it look like for us to expect and want from our Star Wars games? Obviously, I think we're stepping further away from online games in Star Wars as a thing. I don't expect we'll see Battlefront again for a hot minute.
No.
I don't think that we're going to see something on consoles or PC that is online or mostly online or only online. I think what they're doing is they're changing focus to say, we want more Jedi Survivors. We want more Jedi Fallen Orders. We want to fill the single player story-based worlds of video games.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the golden age of Star Wars video games, if you look at the early 2000s, those games, majority of them are single player games, or like something like, I mean, Battlefront technically had an online section, but most people played those split screen at their house just because of the time. But I think there is a space for multiplayer games in Star Wars. I just don't think they're making that decision anymore.
Yeah, I would agree. I definitely see I think the Star Wars fans are just more interested in having that personal experience of like you being in Star Wars, having this experience, being a part of this canon story.
Yeah. Having it told to you rather than like, I think the strength with something like Skyrim or Bethesda type games is the ability to tell your own stories in these universes. I'm playing a character that is very much inspired by Han Solo in this galaxy, but more of like more scoundrel-like Han Solo. And the game is letting me do that. It's letting me make the decisions. It gives me the opportunity to either pay off someone's debt, kill that person, or lie about that person. Like, it gives you the wide breadth of things to, if you want to just go crazy and attack everybody, you totally can. You can play against what the story wants you to do in these games. And I don't think that works in a Star Wars universe, unfortunately.
Interesting. Why not?
I think to be quote unquote canon is separate from that, you know?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, because Star Wars stories...
You have to make every single opportunity or possibility canon if you do it that way.
Right, and that's just it. Star Wars is a story. That's always what it's been. It's always been this keystone of hope and family and like just there's all these themes to it that make it what it is, and it's never going to be Starfield. Starfield's just, here's this giant map. Go crazy.
Yeah, but it does have a story.
It does have a story.
And apparently it's very important to follow said story, which I've done a terrible job of so far. I think I've only done one main story mission and I've got like 4 hours in the game.
Nice.
Yeah. But I think if we want to kind of tie this conversation together, this kind of storytelling would be very interesting to see in a Star Wars universe. To truly be that scoundrel hopping from planet to planet and making the level of side missions. Well, technically the side missions, if you want to be canon or legends, or like you can make all the side missions not canon and the main missions canon.
That's true.
That solves that problem and gives you the ability to have character creation, which is something that people have always wanted in every single Star Wars game that you haven't really been able to do.
It's true.
And it gives you the opportunity to tell a cohesive story. So you kind of get the best of both worlds there, which is something that could be good. And when you look at something like Star Wars Outlaws, I think it's bigger than we expected it to be.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is awesome.
But there's also those limitations.
It's a lot smaller than it could be at the same time. So you look at, I don't know how many planets are in Star Wars, the Star Wars galaxy, but it's probably around 1,000, honestly. It's a very dense world. It's probably less than 1,000, honestly, at this point in the canon of the known planets. It's probably less than 1,000. So if Starfield can do 1,000, then a future Star Wars game, it is possible, and it's something that you can now think of and possibly want or expect from certain Star Wars games. But at the same time, maybe not.
Yeah. I mean, even if the Star Wars Field game was half that, that would still feel pretty large and complete.
Oh, yeah. Or set it in the new galaxy that Ahsoka's going to be playing in.
That's true. And then you could just go wild. I mean, does there need to be a canon story? I don't know.
We shall see. But on the idea of Star Wars, where it could be, where it couldn't be, we do have some somewhat depressing news when it comes to the future slate of Star Wars TV shows, specifically around Skeleton Crew. But according to Bespin Bulletin, so it's not officially confirmed yet, he says that Skeleton Crew is now delayed until 2024, as well as additional series possibly delayed as well.
Ooh.
Yeah, so if you don't know, the Writers Guild and the Actors Guilds of America are currently on strike against basically everyone, specifically the big studios, though they did recently go against, I believe, some video game companies as well.
Oh, wow.
So they are spreading their reach to get more of an understanding, one, better pay, better understanding and respect for their arts, and just the idea of, properly getting paid for the services that you do longer than, you get paid this amount first and then no residuals ever. And the idea around AI, both in acting as well as screenwriting. So there's a lot of stuff going on in the writing, directing, and just movie space in general. And it looks like it is going to be affecting Star Wars in many other ways, because even though Bob Iger is one of the top paid CEOs in all of entertainment, and a percentage of his pay would cover all of basically what they're asking for, at least the percentage of the profits that they have been making. All of this stuff is definitely affecting Star Wars. And unfortunately, that means a delay of something like Skeleton Crew is more than likely on the board. We've seen with Dune getting delayed that they are willing to push their big things further into the future just to continue delaying these projects, and rather than, paying people properly.
What a great system.
Yeah, it sounds great, right? There's nothing that could go wrong here. But we do have some extra context here. He says Skeleton Crew began filming in the summer of 2022 and wrapped filming in January or February of this year. And it was supposed to be coming out either November or December was the planned release date. It was supposed to very closely follow up Ahsoka because it's set around the same time frame as Ahsoka.
Yeah.
And while it's not necessarily, it's not around like a known character like Ahsoka or Book of Boba Fett or Obi Wan Kenobi like these other shows are, it's based off of a completely new crew and a different idea. Definitely going back to, like kind of like the Amblin Goonies style TV
almost
show.
Stranger Things.
Yeah,
Yes.
but going back to what inspired Stranger Things and
Gotcha.
then making it more Star Wars related.
Right.
Yeah.
Honestly, it kind of sounds fast. That sounds like a fast turnaround to me. If they just stopped this year and then they were planning to get it out this same year, like they stopped filming and then they still wanted to get it out the same.
No, it's a pretty standard timeline for a TV show, honestly.
Yeah, I guess. But
for release.
it still seems kind of fast.
Well, they don't necessarily want to do anything right now because a part of that would, usually on these kinds of shows, it seems like, especially with the strikes happening, they're more willing to delay projects than launch them with possible backlash or possible renegotiations, whether it's successful, and the whole idea around streaming services and how do you actually categorize success.
Yeah.
Apparently, Ahsoka is underperforming what Obi Wan Kenobi, Book of Boba Fett, Mandalorian Season 3, all of these shows reportedly did. But it did about 14 million views on the premiere.
Wow.
So
And that's underperforming.
That's underperforming
Oof.
compared to the other stuff. But these aren't official numbers. They don't self-report these numbers. They don't do anything like that, which is one of the things that they want more clarity and transparency on.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, yeah, if we actually knew what kind of numbers they were raking in, we would be a lot better situated to know. Like, okay, no, here's the numbers. If we could know the numbers. Yeah, I don't know. There's just a lot of unfairness going around.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Bespin Bulletin says that he hasn't been getting a whole lot of information, but as much as he can, it's all over the board. One specific source says it could be delayed by an entire year, releasing in November of 2024.
Oh, wow.
But he couldn't get that information
Official.
confirmed by a second source. So don't take that as a possibility here.
Yeah.
But I want to take this information and do a little bit of a vibe check on how we're feeling for Disney Plus TV shows right now.
Okay.
There is a little background here. Disney is deprioritizing the level of investment around TV shows in general. Marvel's going to be stepping back in how many TV shows it's producing. Star Wars is reportedly also on the idea around that. We're still going to be getting the TV shows that are officially announced. Ahsoka, We're getting Ahsoka right now. Acolyte, Skeleton Crew, Mandalorian season 4. Though there's another rumor that's saying that that's actually going to be a
movie
instead of a TV show, going to be a movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So who knows what these end goals will look like? But there's a lot that can happen, and there's a lot that might not happen.
I wouldn't be surprised if they change some of those TV shows into movies, like you were saying.
I mean, if
with
they're early in
Mandalorian.
production. If
But-
you look at it from a studio perspective,
I'm just saying they've done weird stuff to these things.
Uh-huh.
Like they
Look
have
at
changed. Look at
freaking-
Obi-Wan.
yeah,
They changed that.
yeah.
Like
What does that look
3
like
or
in the
5
reverse?
times? Yeah.
Because going from, if you don't know, Obi-Wan was supposed to be a movie or trilogy of movies at one point. Then they turned it into a movie, and then they turned it into 26 episodes, and they turned 26 episodes into like 12 episodes, and then they took 12 episodes and turned it into 6 episodes and redid basically everything. And what we actually got is very different from what it was originally going to be. But if you look at it from their perspective, if you write a movie, you're looking at max 4 writers. If you write a TV show, that could be even more writers that you have to talk about, which is stupid. And I think that is a very, very dumb way to think about it.
Yeah.
But that is something that they're probably considering. If you look at the level of crew required to do a TV show versus like a one-off where they don't have to worry about residuals like they do on TV, that could be something that they're looking at.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could definitely see a lot of these shows that we're supposed to get turned into something smaller, turned into
Which is
movie,
dumb.
turned into...
I would hate to see some of these Star Wars shows do like a direct to Disney Plus movie. I think that's wasting the IP, and I think it's just really, it's muddying the waters and diluting it more than is necessary. I'd rather not get Star Wars than have something that was supposed to be a TV series turned into a movie.
Yeah. So,
And
is
vice
this-
versa.
Is this your vibe check? Is this your like, maybe don't? Maybe just keep them TV shows?
Honestly, my vibe check is get your heads out of your butts, studios, and actually,
Pay your people.
pay your people.
Good
So we don't
gosh.
have to worry about stupid things like that, because we're going to enter a dry spell. Movies in particular are going to be the ones hardest hit by this, because I feel like movies have a longer timeline than TV shows usually do. So I think if they do get into negotiations and they can get back into pre-production as well as post-production on movies, I think that would be quicker, more quickly spun up. But it's definitely changing things. It doesn't seem like they're any closer to finding a middle ground.
Yeah. Sounds like both parties are stubborn, some for good reasons, others for not good reasons. Studios, we're looking at you. Yeah, the vibe check's weird. I don't know, they had such big plans, but now it's like, ooh, if you're thinking about, I don't know, whenever any studio or anything is like that far along and then they're already like, I think we're going to push this back maybe tentatively. It's like, oh gosh, here we go. Like
From all reports, though, Skeleton Crew is ready. At Star Wars Celebration, I saw the teaser for it, and it looks amazing. It looks very much like a callback and something very different in Star Wars, which I'm really excited about. And I think a few months ago it was removed. It wasn't on the Disney schedule of content that was to be released, so that was kind of the first red flag. But then ILM posted something about working on the series, so that was something I was like, are they really doing this? But in terms of like the content on Disney Plus, how are you feeling about it? I feel like it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Like I think it's a good thing for fandom.
No, I would agree. I think it's been good. At least with Ahsoka, I'm happy. I'm actually really happy with it. I think they are actually starting to hit a stride where it's like, okay, no, we know the direction we're going.
Yeah.
I don't want them to just like start being like, oh, inconvenience. Okay, let's just push everything back. Like I don't know, man. I don't know. I really have been enjoying the TV shows, though.
I have too. I think they don't have as much stress around them or expectation that they have to do this thing around them. So I think that we get something very different in Star Wars. Well, I didn't really enjoy Mando season 3. I thought it was like a fun romp. I just felt it was very disjointed. And Book of Boba Fett, I've come to appreciate more. Mando seasons 1 and 2, I think, were very solid. And Obi Wan was absolute garbage, in my opinion. Andor was amazing. I feel like this is what I want from Star Wars, is different views and different perspectives. While I may not necessarily enjoy this show versus this show, I think it's good that they can explore these different parts of the galaxy.
Yeah, and I appreciate that they're not, like you said, they're not as stressed. They're not as stressed out with making a movie. Instead, it feels like they're having more fun with making TV shows.
Yeah.
And we need to see that instead of being
We definitely
we have
do.
to try to make this something and make all the money. Like, it's just stop. Just stop.
Which is what Bob Iger is all about, unfortunately. But let us know your thoughts. What would you like to see in a Star Wars Starfield? And what are your thoughts on future Star Wars projects getting delayed, possibly indefinitely? Let us know in the comments below or contact at uplinkpodcast.com. Hey, as always, thank you for listening. You can check out the podcast wherever you find podcasts. And may the Force be with you.